Alec, really good to have you on here, sir. Thank you so much, man.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me, Jacob.
Yeah, I just wanted to jump right in with you here. When did you realize you wanted to start making music?
Oh
When
man,
when did that kind of enter your life there?
very young. I mean, I started playing guitar when I was about like 7 or 8 years old, and at first I was like skateboarding and riding bikes and just such a kid. I wanted to do everything, but started playing guitar and kind of fell off of it, and then I got more into it when I was like maybe 10 or 12, and I was fortunate to have this guy named Patrick Bolin in Palos Verdes who had like a summer band program, sort of band camp thing. And he'd put kids of the same similar caliber together and form a band and would teach us all songs. And that kind of showed me what it could be, rather than just tinkering in my bedroom on a guitar. I was like, oh, okay, like I could do this with other people. We can make this song happen. Oh, wow, that's cool. And then from there, I was kind of like, let's do this, and just been staying on it since then.
Yeah, was it around that time that you realized that music was going to be a big part of your life moving forward?
Yeah, totally. And it's always been a big part, but I think as far as performing or playing it or living it, I guess, yeah.
When did you start to make your own music? Was that around the same time?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the first thing that I recorded, I must have been, what would that be? 12 or 13. In sixth grade, I wrote like some really silly, stupid songs with my buddy Anthony Messino, and we like made like a record almost. I wouldn't call it a record, but we had all this group of songs that we recorded, and they were about like the stupidest shit, like about like science class, and my buddy like determining like, oh, how do you wipe your ass? Do you sit or you stand when you do it? Like literally just bullshit. But we did that, and ever since then, I mean, Anthony's still one of my biggest partners in music. Him and I started a group recently called the Emkays and released our first single on Wick in September. So, I mean, yeah, me and all my buddies have been doing it for a while and are still holding it together.
That's still kind of the same topics that the MKs are covering.
Of course, I don't know how to write anything else. I'm full of it.
Did you find it easy to get that creative ball rolling early on? Did it just come naturally to you, do you feel?
I mean, it's so far back. I think so though. I feel like I'm lucky, I guess is a decent word to use, but I don't take myself too seriously unless I need to, when push comes to shove or when you got to show up for something, I guess. But as far as being an artist or being creative, it's always just kind of been whatever, like this is what I want to do, let's do that. Like fuck it.
What uh what artist interested you early on around this time that you're writing your first kind of songs and getting into music?
Yeah, some of the earliest influences and things that like really uh I don't know, meant a lot to me or made me want to do it. I remember even before I started playing guitar or an instrument, I would ride around in the car in the back seat with my mom, and she would play like Rubber Soul. The Beatles album was one of my first records that I ever got into, and like Eric Clapton, she turned me on to, and James Taylor and that stuff. But I would always sit in the back seat behind her seat, and I would try to harmonize to the radio or sing along. And in my head, I was like, I'm gonna do so well right now that my mom doesn't even know that I'm singing. Like I'm gonna try to blend so good that she doesn't even know. And I convinced myself I was doing it.
Was yeah, because you do incorporate harmonization often in your songs. Was it something that gripped you early on, that aspect of matching pitch and whatnot?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, at the time I was so young that I didn't even have a grasp of what it was that I was trying to do. But I've always had, I guess, an ear. Like I've learned how to play completely by ear, after like reading tabs and figuring out what a G chord, C chord, and all that was. Everything else like came just by ear by listening to a record and playing along. And like, oh, that's that one right there, and singing, and that allowed me to kind of not really think too hard or try to put numbers or theory behind anything, of just that sounds good, that must be it, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, like sort of mentality, just trucking along.
Looking back on it, do you figure that was the only way for you to really grasp it? Is just kinda teaching yourself instead of being, more of a scholastic route?
Yeah, for
And
sure. When I was in high school, I took a music theory class, and like day one, I was like, the fuck am I doing here? Didn't like it at all. It just like kind of took this beautiful, creative, free form, off the cuff sort of thing. And it just, I don't know, it tried to box it too much for me. And I was like, I don't jive with this. And I mean, nowadays I'm older and I understand it and it makes sense and it works. And there's ways and reasons to apply that stuff. But when you're writing, I don't think you don't need to think about the theory of it. I think you just write the song or the story.
yeah. So, in a sense, you've created your own box in which you operate within.
I suppose so. I'd like to think not, just to be able to expand, but I guess it's a box that's forever growing and sometimes a little more obtuse than other times.
Okay. So these early influences, Beatles and James Taylor and this kind of stuff that you're listening to with your mom early on, are these artists and their songs still kind of an inspiration to you?
100%. 100% all the way. Like I was mentioning earlier, this new group, the MKs, we kind of have a trajectory of sorts, but the first 45 that we put out, and we're working on making a full length record right now, kind of this style. But our Anthony and I, our biggest influences from when we were younger are like the Beatles and the Kinks and Zombies and stuff like that, and the British Invasion kind of pop of the early mid 60s. So we're doing that right now as kind of the genre, if you will, of what we're working on. So yeah, it's totally still present.
Oh, it's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Uh, do you refrain from listening to other music when you're creating music, or do you try to really get as much in as possible during that time frame?
It doesn't really change for me. Like I listen to music from the moment I wake up till I go to bed. Really, I'm always playing the radio or have my auxiliary cord going, and I play. And kind of sometimes I'll be really focused and kind of a strict listener and want to hear what I want to hear, and other times I'll just let it happen as it goes. Let an algorithm run on Spotify or something and come about. But yeah, when I am creating, I definitely like to listen to things that I think might be similar to give me an idea as far as production goes, because I also like to, I value that aspect of making records or songs, is like, oh, this kind of has this feel or this vibe. Like, what other songs can I equate in a way to that sonically? Oh, they're using the freaking claves on the, like doing this clave beat or something. Okay, I'm gonna take that, because that would work really well in this track. But little things, but I'm always listening. I don't think that it hinders the process at all to be inspired continuously through it.
Right.
Yeah.
Was there or is there an album that was really inspirational for you early on that you just don't tend to go back to anymore? Maybe you've overplayed it, or does that not happen to you?
Uh, I don't know. I don't think it does. There's definitely, I mean, I'll blow something out and then I'll move down the line, but I'll always come back to it. And then there's a lot of music out there, a lot of songs or albums or artists that I was so turned on to years ago. And then it kind of, as I went through that process of moving down the line, I forgot about it. And then when it like makes its way back, I'm like, oh, I forgot about this one. I love this song. And then it like starts from square one, and I'm back on.
Is there a recent example of that for you?
Oh man. I would be like in silence for too long trying to think about it.
In terms of the format of listening to music, is it usually via the phone nowadays? Is that the primal way that you're consuming music?
I mean, it's an easy way. I mean, when I'm working or driving around or doing whatever, that's how I will do it. But I do like to collect records and I still run vinyl and everything. And when I'm like at home and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna smoke a fucking spliff and throw some records on, I'll throw 45s down and just dig in, you know.
Yeah,
Back, be like, I'm just gonna let this one play out front to back.
very nice.
A little bit of both, yeah.
So no cassettes though, I'm assuming.
Cassettes are funny because I had a car, I had a what was it? It was like an '02 Volkswagen Passat for a little bit, and it had a cassette player in it. I was like, hell yeah! So I busted out all my cassettes and I would play it, and then that car blew up, and I was like, oh man! And then every
Cassettes
car,
are done. Yeah, that's it.
yeah, now I got no way to listen to my cassettes. Shit, I should have just kept it, put it on cinder blocks in the lawn, and like just sat in there with cassettes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Do you find more inspiration for writing new songs through listening to music, or something outside of music is more of the thing that propels you to create something new?
A bit of both. I mean, sometimes I'll hear a song going back to the idea of just production standpoint on music. Sometimes I'll hear a song and be like, whoa, like I really like how this sounds. I want to try to not mimic or steal anything, but like, how can I incorporate this style of production into a song that would fit in one of the projects I'm involved in or something? Or do I need to start another project now all of a sudden? Oh my God, you know? Like, but I don't know. I think the biggest one for me when I start to write a song or anything is because I also don't really force it that often. I don't sit down and I say, time to write a song. You know, something will happen in my life or I'll have an experience or I'll observe someone else's experience and something will click and I'll think, oh, that could be a good story. And really, at the end of the day, I think it's more about stories than anything else. Like, I'm just trying to write a good story that everyone can relate to, and then finding how to puzzle it together, or that's the idea, at least.
Does it start with the situation or the characters, or again, just maybe a bit of both?
Yeah, totally. And like it's hard to nail down. There isn't a formula that I've set up yet, but I like it that way. It might be a person, and it's a very specific story related to that, or it's a general thing going on socially or whatever, and I try to write it in clever ways. Always, I'm not gonna like name drop, or just be so specific, but in a way that you could tell or pick up on it if you were to.
Yeah.
I don't know, but
It,
it's always
yeah.
changing
And
down.
you never let anybody know who who it's about. You never say, "Hey, it's about you." This song.
Oh, I'm
You-
terrible. I'll do that all the time. I'll make a demo and I'll just fucking send off a voice memo to like the person, like, thought you should hear this. You know what I mean?
No, that's great. I'm sure that
I'm
they
like, this will
love
work.
it.
Won't.
So is it mostly people that you know, or maybe stories that you've heard, that inspires you, the things that inspire you outside of music?
Yeah, I mean, for certain things too. Like I play with the Charities, which is like a soul funk R&B throwback band. And whenever I'm sitting down to write with Brock or myself, and I think, oh, this could be something. I like these chords and that style of music. If you listen to like oldies, R&B, and soul, a lot of those songs are kind of more personal songs, or they're about love or loss or your perspective on it, or how hurt you are, or how wrong you've done someone, or how wrong someone's done you. So that's that. And I think I'll dig into more of a personal writing standpoint during those sorts of songs. But there's other songs which I'm excited about with like the Emkays project is just like having a hook and an idea and then pondering it for like a while and being like, how do we make this an actual story that's not really personal to anyone, but it could be if you're a listener, anyone, excuse me, anyone could understand or relate to it, but it's not going to be about me and this hardship that I've endured or not endured. It's like let's invent a character right now, and let's like what are they all about? What's their problem, and trying to do it that way. So it goes any kind of way you want it, really.
Trying to make it more multidimensional than just straight up and down.
Yeah, totally. And it makes it more fun too. And it's cool when you're like, wow, maybe I've never experienced this sort of perspective or this situation, but let's try to imagine a scenario right now. And then it kind of like anything goes. Those songs are really fun to write.
And by the way, I need to take this minute. You mentioned Brock, and please go listen to his episode on this here podcast once you're done with this one. Fantastic dude. What do you tend to focus on the first time that you hear a song that you really like? Is it instrumentation? Is it lyrics? Or is it a certain instrument?
Yeah, I think from the first glance or the first listen, it's definitely the instrumentation and the chord changes, and that will grasp me from the get go. And I'll be like, whoa. And then the lyrics come into it. And then after another listen or so, then I start being like, okay, that's the sound. Like those are the chords or whatever. Just being a guitar player, I think I naturally just always like jump into the chords because I want to know it. And I'm like, oh, those are great changes. And then I like dive deeper into the other aspects. And then the lyrics are huge, but I'm glad I kind of like saving those for last in a way. And then once I have like I know the sound and then I can pay attention to the lyrics and I already know the music and it kind of almost like I'm not missing anything then. Like the words will reciprocate what the sounds are doing, in a way. And I don't know, it makes it flow easier for me as a listener, I suppose.
Yeah, so you're diving pretty deep and then kind of coming up more shallow as more listens occur.
Yeah, I guess so. Sure.
All right.
The other way around, I don't know.
Or
Depends.
vice versa. Speaking on the charities, when did you kind of start getting involved with that band? What was the
Um,
origin of that?
from day one, really. I was in this band in high school called Brissy, and a lot of those cats, they actually all the other guys in the band moved to New York years ago now. Like man, no, almost eight years ago. And I think it was 2016 or 2017. Brock hit me up and was like, "Hey, I'm starting this new project. I don't really know what it's called yet, but I was wondering if you wanted to be a part of it." And at the time, I was all bitter, and I was like, "I'm fucking done with this shit, man. My whole band just up and left and went to New York, and I'm all bummed and alone." And he's like, "All right, for sure. Well, let me know. Offers always open." And I went and saw a show that he was doing in one of the earliest iterations, and I was like, "Oh man, this is sick!" Because Brock's always written great songs, and it's always been lovely. So I was like, "Oh, this is cool." And I actually got on stage and I played tambourine for the whole set, and I was like, "All right, dude, you got me. Count me in. Let's do this." And so then it all started, and then Brock asked me one day, he's like, "Hey, I came up with this name, the Charities. What do you think of it?" I'm not sure, and I was like, "What do you mean you're not sure? I think it's a great name. Like, you can't, you're not going to say something that's like all of a sudden on a marquee and lights. Like, you got to like go out and like make that suit look good. Like, that's how it's." He was like, "Okay, sure, let's do it." And then, yeah, here we are.
So even from that first tambourine session, we'll call it,
Yeah.
uh, did you realize at that point that you're like, oh, this is the right band that I need to kind of throw myself into?
Yeah. For the time being, and it's always changing. And I'm always doing different things, like I was a part of making a bluegrass record a few years ago, and the new Emkays stuff, and the Charities still going strong. And then I'll write like country western stuff when I'm just sitting alone. It's like I just love music in different varieties, and it's always swinging. you know but I don't like stifle myself and say, oh no, like I gotta stick to this one right now or anything. It's like, okay, this is cool over here, and this is over here, and this is here, and I'm just gonna do all these things.
Is there ever a point where these points overlap for you?
Hmm.
That just kind of becomes a more greater thing. It's like it's music that I'm a part of, rather than it's this genre and so forth.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I guess so, yeah, to be put it simply, yeah.
What do you think would have happened if you went with your other band to New York? Where do you think that you would have found yourself out there?
I don't know. The thing is that they didn't really go to New York to continue what was happening in a way. Like it was just kind of like an end, and then slowly but surely, one after the other, they all followed each other out to New York. And I think first it was Anthony was in that band, who I still work with now. He decided he was going, and then everyone was like, "Oh, that sounds exciting." And for everyone's own reason, that everyone got out there eventually. I was like, "What are you talking about, dude? I surf. I like I like California. I want to hang here."
You surf in Brooklyn, man. They got surf shops out there.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's great water out there, man.
Uh-huh.
Coney Island.
Hmm.
I think the Beach Boys are from New York, actually. I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure about that. Uh, so this is 2016, 2017. You're getting together with Brock, and you guys are kind of doing the charities thing.
Yeah.
Did it feel like an easy transition that you guys just melded together immediately?
Yeah, totally. And I'd known Brock already for years before that. And we've always been, whether we were on the same bill and he was in another project that he was working on, we would all hang out, and we were all musicians and loved music. And I would go to Brock's house, and we would spin records and just hang out and bullshit. And he'd be like, I'm working on this. I'd be like, cool. And we like already had that relationship of working together and writing in a way, but didn't solidify it with a band until that time. But yeah, it's always been easy. It's I've never found myself like trying to get into a situation that like just didn't feel right from the get-go. I feel like I have a pretty good gauge on being like, yeah, sure, you asked me to play guitar in your band, but like I'm not really sure about the music that we're doing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I've never really allowed myself to go down that path and be kind of like, maybe, I guess, or it's like I'm very certain of the things that I like musically and in general. And I've never thrown myself down a well of like, maybe I'll come to like it. It's always been like, I dig this, like let's do it, and then it's on.
Right. And this was in forgive me if I have this wrong, but like the Santa Monica area, right? That
Yeah.
you guys are getting
Um,
together.
we're all from like between like Hermosa and Redondo Beach
Oh, okay.
growing up. So yeah, like Santa Monica, South Bay, but a little further south than there, just small little beach towns.
What was the music scene like for you at that time outside of the charities? Did you find that there was a lot of availability to do stuff, or was it kind of limited?
Not really. I'd say it's very limited. There was, I mean, limited in the sense of stylistics in a way. Growing up, like Hermosa Beach in the South Bay is home to a lot of punk music. Like the Black Flag started there in Hermosa. Then local bands growing up, like STDs, Circle Jerks, I think, were down there like back in the day.
Hmm.
So everybody, and we were all like skater kids growing up, and it was like skateboarding, mosh pits, punk music, crushing beers. Like that was the MO in a way. But I got into it. Like all my friends around me, or at least a lot of them, were like going to like hardcore shows and punk shows and digging into it and like starting their own hardcore bands. and I would go sometimes just to hang out, and drink beer. But to me, like, I was just born and raised with like the Beatles, Rubber Soul. It's like, how do you top that? Like, I don't want to hear like blast beats and all this shit. It's got its place, but I was like, I want to hear beautiful songwriting and singing and all these things.
Going back to constructions of songs, do you tend to work on instrumentation first or lyrics first, or is it kind of a
Yeah,
combination of both?
it's always different. It really depends. Some songs, like I said, I don't really try to sit down and fabricate a song out of thin air. I have to really be feeling it, or it has to be the moment for me. And sometimes I'll write a full song. Sorry, excuse me. I'll write a full song in like 10 minutes, depending on the song. And other times it'll be weeks or days, or I'll have an idea musically, and maybe I'll have like one like idea lyrically, but yeah, it really all depends. But most times it's kind of like an ongoing process, and I'll start with a foundation or a hook or a chorus or the idea that I want the song to have or be, and then from there I'll develop the deeper questions or answers, I guess.
Very nice. Uh, do you enjoy working on music by yourself, or do you like it to be more of a collaborative effort?
I like both. I like both ways. Certain times I like to do it on my own, but recently I've been having a really good time working with Anthony, and we write all the songs together. Maybe I'll have an idea, I'll send him a demo, and he'll say, "Oh, cool, we should work on this later." And when I go see him or whatever, we'll sit down, and that's kind of when we get into the pondering and the thought process of what do we actually want to do with this? What's going to make this one special or whatever. And I like having a partner in a lot of ways, just because it's like it's the backbone in a sense. When you're on your own, you're going to question yourself and be like, oh no, that's not good, that's not good. But when you have someone backing you up, it's like maybe it is good or whatever, and you can just throw ideas at each other and just be good or not.
Yeah. Is that different vantage point from somebody else's perspective important as well
Yeah.
to, to see how they would approach a song or an idea for a song?
Yeah, and sometimes it's not always good though. Like if you're writing with the wrong partner, like you're not gonna find any common ground, and you're just gonna be running around the mulberry bush like fucking off all night. But if you're working with the right cat or the right partner, then you can like complete each other's sentences or phrases or stanzas, and then you're like, oh, okay, we're thinking the same thing right now. Great.
Have you adopted some ways that other people work on music and kind of applied it to your own music moving forward?
I don't know how anyone else works on music, so no, maybe on me, but I know the way that I do it and people around me do it, but as far as like musical inspirations, I've never found out like how they do it.
When you figure it out, will you come back on here and tell me?
Yeah, I'll look in it for you.
All right, cool. Thanks.
Deal.
Yeah, was it pretty soon after joining the charities that you started kind of working on new stuff and writing stuff with Brock?
Yeah, totally. I mean, off the get-go. Um, yeah, so like the first we all lived together actually down in Manhattan Beach. We had like a duplex and we had 7 guys living in it. And right then and there we made the first album or EP, I guess. And yeah, Brock and I like wrote all those songs together. I lived in the kitchen. I had like a full bed or something, not even a full, like a, what do you call it?
When
Literally army cot, essentially. Back corner of the kitchen with a partition wall that I put up. So yeah, I woke up to someone making breakfast every day.
I mean, everybody loves the smell of bacon right when they wake up, right?
Like, ooh, time to get up. I'm gonna get me some of that. But yeah, like ever since the beginning, like right there, like just living together makes it so much easier as well, because naturally you're already right there with a partner, with somebody.
Was that very first release a huge step for you? Did you feel in the band?
I mean, yeah, for sure. I'll say yes. Like you have to, right? I mean, that's the name of the game and the steps and the ways that it go. But yeah, I'd say so. It felt that way at least at the time for us. It was like, wow, we got our first thing, but it was like we did it ourselves. And we'd already all been doing that for years, like putting things out on SoundCloud and Bandcamp. And this one felt big because we were like, ooh, we're gonna like get it on Spotify and Apple Music. Wow, crazy. And but like fast forward to, the last like year is like probably a bigger moment for us, like actually getting 45s pressed and working with Newtone, a label, and like having it on wax and having the physical copy of something. That was a huge step in my opinion. Like, okay, like someone else wants us to be doing this now, rather than just us, because anyone can go do that.
Yeah. Uh, yeah. What was that first putting that on the turntable like for you?
It was pretty special. Tell you what, not gonna lie, it felt pretty good.
And Anthony Messino produced that first 45 and the second one that just came out recently, right?
Yep, Anthony produces most all the charity stuff at the moment.
Very nice. Now, did you kind of reconnect with him to form the Emkays through him kind of producing these 245s that are out?
Not exactly. Like I mean, we grew up together and we've always been best buds. But he was in New York and he moved back, and we were just always talking. And he reached out to me one day. He's like, "Hey, we should like write again and like make some music." And I was like, "Absolutely, dude, let's do it." And yeah, it just worked out that way. And here we are. Now we're doing it, I guess. And then through that all, we're also doing the charity stuff.
Do you find yourself writing about different topics with the MKs compared to what you write about with the charities, or is it kind of the same things that influence both of those groups?
I think they're similar topics. I mean, it's like how far can you go when you're writing songs? You can't like start talking about like what you're eating for dinner and stuff. Like there's always going to be that silver lining or the similar thread of a man and a woman or whatever it is, and it's love, hate, loss, regret. Like there's all these themes, but I think the way that the stories are told are totally different between the two groups. But that's the thing, is I try to take myself out of my shoes, I guess, or I try to like get out of my own self when I do it. Like that would be, because if you don't, I suppose you're gonna write the same song 100 times. You always have to consider being different or having a different perspective, and which isn't easy always, because I am only one person.
Have you ever caught yourself writing something that's already been written?
Not like exactly, but sometimes I'll like have an idea. But I am pretty good at that. Like Brock used to send me demos and be like, "What is this? I know this has got to be something." I'm like, "Oh, that's like the piano part to this one song. That's like a low key YouTube cut." And he'd be like, "Damn it, I thought so. I knew you would know." So I feel like, and that's another thing going back to earlier, listening to music constantly and always diving deeper through the process helps like keep you kind of on track to staying original, in a way.
Yeah, is that ever a difficulty about staying original? Yeah, is that ever been an issue, or has it been something that has always just been present?
I mean, it depends really, like who's judging or who you ask. It's like so many people could probably say, "Oh, that's not original. It's been done before." But yeah, of course, everything's already been done. But It's really up to how you do it, especially with the soul music. It's like it's gonna be these chords and but then the story that you write on top of it and the melody that you sing over it, if you make that different, all of a sudden it's a different song completely. And you can't even put them next to each other.
How do you feel about this new soul boom that we've kind of been seeing lately?
It's exciting, it's cool, it gives people like me or the charities and other groups like a place to fit in. It's like we've always been doing it, but now that it's kind of becoming a more prevalent, respected, listened to genre again, it's like, oh, now we can sell tickets, now we can play shows and people want to come see it. And it's cool to kind of be in the mix of all that.
Does your perception of your own songs change over time?
Yeah. Um, yeah, I'll revisit stuff that I wrote years ago or when I was younger. I almost like it, like because I don't listen to my own music that often. I mean, I will when I like want to take a trip down memory lane. I'll be like, ooh, I put this out in 2015. Let me listen to that, and I'll be like, damn, that's where I was at. Like, okay, and it does feel different, or it hits a little different.
Do you expect that now when you write new stuff?
No, I don't think so. I don't take it that far. It's just it is what it is, and I'm always, one day at a time, and no time better than the present.
Do you find it hard to live in the present, or is it something that's also easy for you?
No, I think it's easy enough. Some days are better than worse, but yeah, I mean, if I was dreaming about the past or what's to come, like I wouldn't get anything done.
Uh, does your perception of songs that you like change over time as well? Not, I mean, outside of your own stuff that you've created.
Yeah, yeah, totally. I mean, there is the core of like what I like and what I like to create, but I'll like go through phases where I'm listening to like country western George Jones and bluegrass, or then I'll listen to like super modern stuff, or anything under the sun, really. And it goes seasonally too. Like right now, like I'll listen to a bunch of Vince Guaraldi and shit, because why not? And like holiday themed jazz stuff and kind of revisit that. And
Was there a genre that at first you didn't understand or didn't like, and then it kind of just ended up growing on you for whatever reason?
yeah, for sure. Like country, for one. When I was younger, like I didn't know old, like true country. So I thought modern, like 90s and early 2000s country was shit. But like I just had this image in my head because I didn't know any better.
Has your image of rock and roll or all these other genres changed as well?
Uh, I don't know. I mean, rock and roll, not really, because I was so into that when I was a kid. It was like Led Zeppelin, and like that's a perfect picture, like for rock and roll. I'm like, okay, like bell bottoms, long hair, and Les Pauls, like great.
Greta Van Fleet, right?
Yeah,
Is there a 10 out of 10 perfect album just that you always think of like this is a peak album here?
yeah. Honestly, there's a lot, but off the top of my head, probably like Carole King Tapestry is like a perfect record. I don't think there's a single song on that album that I don't like. And Carole King's just the greatest. She's such a good writer from her early days too, and she was just a kid like writing for like soul singers and like some of the greatest, and you'd never know.
Right. In terms of you kind of paying attention to the production side of music, the first go around of something that you like and kind of honing in on that, do you hope that people who listen to your songs focus on that immediately as well, or do you want it to be kind of a more all encompassing perspective first go around and second go around and whatnot.
All I could hope is that um, it's well liked, I guess, whether it be a single or one song or an album in its entirety. But really, at the end of the day, I'm not looking for praise or anyone to say good job, Al, like, or anything. Like, I'm doing it because I think that it's good and I just can't help myself but do it.
Has your relationship with music changed since the initial interest way back when you were younger to now?
I wouldn't, I mean, change, yeah, change is inevitable, but not not at the core. Like I'll that's like a trippy one. I'll find myself sometimes in a deeper moment in retrospect and think like, wow, like I'm still doing this. Crazy, but it's just like I said, like one day at a time, and I just love doing it, and I'm gonna continue to do it. And I mean, yeah, it's a little different just because it's not like I'm not a 13-year-old in my bedroom at my mom's house, like playing guitar, like tinkering around. Like now, it's like I'm in studios making records or playing on other people's records or writing songs that get printed on vinyl, and then I'm going on tour with some band. It's like it's bigger and it always changes, but I think like the humility and like the child in me or whatever that had that initial desire still exists every day.
Do you enjoy that aspect of being a hired gun type or to be brought into a studio session or
Yeah.
kind of plan a couple of shows? Yeah.
Yeah, I do like it. It's fun. It's a newer endeavor, a newer opportunity that I've been given. But it feels cool. I like the challenge of showing up and just learning or hearing a song for the first time. And it's like, okay, let's cut it. Like, all right. And just it's like I feel like I'm really on my toes, and it's not like something that I ponder or think about, or I'm not doing it for me or how I want it to be. It's like this is how we want you to perform, or what needs to be done. Can you do it? And it's like, absolutely, sure, let's do it. And I like that challenge as a player.
And are you strictly doing guitar stuff?
Um, yeah, when I play, it's mostly guitar, but I do like a lot of like background vocals, doing harmonies and stuff for other records. Probably honestly more than I play guitar on records.
In terms of playing up on stage, playing live, uh, what's going through your mind then? Are you pondering things? Are you in
Nothing.
that moment at that point?
Yeah, just in that moment, I don't have any time to think of anything else. It's all right then and there. Every chord and every lyric and everything just right then and there.
Is that something that you enjoy? Is that the most enjoyable aspect of playing live?
It's nice to play live just because you go out on the road or you get on stage and you get an hour or even like a 30-minute opener slot and you blast through it, and it's like, where'd the time go? And it just happens like that, all of a sudden. um but going into that, there's so much work, whether it be writing the songs, recording it, producing it, like all the parts getting put together, and it's days and hours of that work, and then you go play that song and it lasts for 3 minutes. But that's something I do enjoy, that you go up and it's kind of like, okay, we did like 10 takes when we were recording this and we were trying to get it perfect, but now like clock's ticking, we're playing a show, you got 30 minutes to do 9 songs or whatever. So it definitely, it's like the carpet getting swept out from under you in a sense, but not in a loss of control type of way.
Right. Has it always been your perspective when playing live, or have you evolved into this sort of idea of it?
I think so. I think it's always been that way. I like to like work and communicate and act with an audience. I've always liked that. It's like this ebb and flow of the vibe or the energy. It's like if we're having a good time, they're gonna have a good time. If they're having a good time, we're having a good time. And if you connect the dots and that starts flowing in a circle, then you're just gonna go to the moon and back, and everyone's gonna have a ball.
Do you enjoy being in the opening slot and kinda setting the tone for a show, or do you prefer to be coming up when the tone is already set?
Depends, like either or. Honestly, I do really enjoy the opening slot. Sometimes that's fun. There's like not a lot of pressure. Like when you're a headliner and you're playing, it's like, okay, most of the people here maybe are here and bought a ticket or whatever, and they're here to see you. So then it's like, okay, now we got to perform. If you're opening, it's like still got to perform, but you're not, because I'll have a lot of internal dialogue before getting on stage. Standing side stage and we hit in 5 minutes. I'm like, oh my god, okay, okay, here we go. Like get it together. Like we're about to do this, and that's when all that kind of conversation with myself starts and happens. But once you get on there and you plug in and you play the first chord and you sing the first line, it's all out the window and you're just doing it then.
Is it always the same thoughts that occur while waiting in the wings to go up on stage?
Yeah, I'd say so. It's just like yeah, it's just the oh my god, I can't do this. Or the I could do this. I got this. It's just hyping myself up. I'm my own hype man. Or whenever we're in like the whole band is like we're just hyping each other up, or everyone's having a moment of peace or silence with themselves and getting ready for what's to come.
And as quickly as it comes, is that as quickly as it goes in terms of just strumming that first chord?
Yeah, it is. And then all of a sudden your set's over and you're like, man, I was just starting to feel it. I want to go do that again, like tenfold.
How different is it performing with a fuller band like the Charities and then switching to playing with, and is it just you 2, you and Anthony with the Emkays, or is there
Uh,
also
the MKs, like Anthony and I are like, it's not like a full band necessarily yet, but Anthony and I are the MKs, and we write the songs. And when we get into the studio to record, we have studio musicians come in and play the other instruments. I'll play guitar, Anthony will play, I'll sing, but we'll like hire guys. But we have other players on stage with us when we play live, and like, it fills out. But as far as the creative process, it's like less cooks in the kitchen. It's just the two of us writing all the songs, making all the calls. We tell everybody what to do essentially, but like obviously add your flair, and that's why we hire who we hire when we cut records.
right?
But I mean, it always depends. Like the Charities have been going for a long time, and the MKs we just opened for the Sacred Souls at the Wiltern to like a sold out house, which is like 2,400 people, and that was huge. That was like the biggest thing I've ever played in my life. I was blown
How
away. I was
Yeah,
like,
how was that experience?
it was wild. At first, I was definitely nervous, and usually these days I don't get stage fright, and I don't feel it. It's like okay, here we go. Especially being in a big group, like you feel like oh, I'm here with my bros right now. We're gonna handle this. Like I got your back, they got my back. Like, but being there and being such a new band, it was crazy to do that and playing like a place like the Wiltern. It was incredible, but such a humbling experience and just beautiful, and I loved it.
Yeah, it's it's a big undertaking with that many people. Is it sometimes easier to perform in front of a bigger audience than a smaller audience?
Yeah, for sure.
What's that happy middle ground in between 2,700 and 10?
I don't know. 500 people seems to be like a sweet spot or something, or a room that's like suited for that. But really, I don't know. I mean, it's like the Wiltern show, for example, like getting on there and the banter on the wings before we hit was like, holy shit, dude. Like this is huge, guys. Oh my god. Then we get there and it's like the first song. I'm like, oh man, and like takes me a second to find my voice in that big of a hall theater and line everything up, and it all makes sense in my head. And then after the second or third song, I'm like, okay, cool. Like I got my foundation now. Like let's do the rest of the set. We're good.
And as we're recording this, there's 2 songs out by the band, right?
Yeah, the MKs.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a single out right now on Wick Records. Side A is the right track, and the B side is Make It True.
Did that kinda add to the daunting of the set because there wasn't that much out, or did that not matter at that point?
No, not really. I don't think so. I mean, obviously, you want to have material out there for if people are like, "Wow, that was a great set." You want to have something for them to go listen to, but it's almost kind of a good position to be in because you leave people wanting more. Always, it's better than having too much to where people can't even begin to endeavor into it or dive in, right?
Right, right. And is there you guys are working on more stuff now?
Hmm.
Alright. Very
Yeah,
good.
yeah. Working in the studio, working on full length records. So
Is it nice to kinda differentiate between the Charities and the MKs?
yeah, totally. I definitely need it.
Would 3 bands be too much?
Probably for me, at least like being like at that level of a member, like I could play if I were just a player in another band and
Mhm.
like, oh, we're doing these shows, come play, and I didn't have to make any decisions or be a part of the writing process or anything. Maybe I could swing it, but I'm a pretty simple dude and I don't like to have too much on my plate. I like to have quality over quantity, I guess, and I also, enjoy my free time and like that, so
Yeah. Is your free time spent making music, or do you try to allot certain times to get away from that? Or is it always something that's just in the background and a part of your life?
I mean, that depends, like when I have free time, I like to travel, I like to go see my family, I like to surf, like things like that, it's like when I don't have anything going on, I'm not working, I'm not playing, I'm not recording. Honestly, I just like to chill. But I'll always play guitar and you never know. It's like maybe, oh, today's the day I have this idea, and then I'll do something musical.
How does your mom feel about the music? Does she like it?
Yeah, for sure. She loves it. I give her like the first pressing record and everything that comes out.
Wow.
Yeah, and she's always very excited and she'll text me occasionally. I'm listening to your record. It's so good, honey. So proud of you. And I'm like, it's the best feeling, really, because it wasn't always that way. It was like, go to college, do this, do that. Like, maybe music should just be a hobby. And then, giving her a VIP guest ticket to go see me play at the Wiltern. And she just, like, oh shit, like you weren't kidding. Like you're doing it. You're really gung ho in this.
Did you ever feel like it was not gonna work? Like that maybe you should
But
have taken that route or whatever, gone to college or whatever?
uh, I mean, yeah, I've had those thoughts, but a little too late, Like, but it always happens. I think in anything, you're always gonna have doubts when the times get tough or whatever, and but that's the thing. If it were easy, everybody would do it. And that was my perspective on it. Like when I was young, I was like, I'm gonna be a musician. I'm gonna play guitar. It's gonna be all fun and games. And now I realize, like, wow, I'm a fucking entrepreneur and like a business owner in a sense. But like, there's literally no way to there's no better way to do it than just doing it and taking the L and being at a loss and in the red all the time. And then like just hoping and praying that one day it's gonna work out because that's all you can do. You can't just like say, I'm going to be a musician, make a record, and like have a really good marketing strategy and just like fucking make buku bucks. There's no way. That's the beauty with art, though.
Well, I mean, Alec, I know this is gonna work out for you, man, and I think you're on the right track, dude. Not and I did not mean that in a I didn't
Hey,
know there was no sorry about that.
yes, there was.
No, there wasn't. I promise there wasn't. I apologize for that. I did not mean to use that play on words. But
No,
Alec, man, I really appreciate you coming on here, man, and thank you for being the last one of this year, dude. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, Jacob. It's absolute pleasure and an honor. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you, but before I let you go, I got some promo to do here.
Okay.
So the Charities music is streaming everywhere, wherever people get their music. That's where they could find it, right?
Yep.
Right on. And yeah, people can stay up to date with news, shows, releases, and everything else by following the band on Instagram at the dot charities on Instagram.
Yeah.
And both of the 45s can be found at hightiderecordings.com.
Hmm.
And the digital tracks are can also be found through the charities.bandcamp.com. That's where you could find those, along with a little bit of the merch, I believe, or the 45s. Can't remember which one's on there,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. 45s are on sale through. I don't even know, honestly. I'm just a guitar player, man.
and the Emkays music is streaming everywhere, and people could buy the debut 45 through shop.tonerecords.com, but it's through Wick, right?
Yeah. Released on Wick, which is uh,
Subsidiary,
subsidiary. We're all part of the Daptone family,
right on.
and
And
they're out here.
that's where you could find it, and people could stay up to date with everything that the band is doing by following you guys on Instagram, right?
Yep. Yes, sir.
Cool, and that's at the dot mks on Instagram.
Yes, sir.
And is there any updates on that short film about the charities that and I can't remember her name, your manager is making?
Missing. Yes. I unfortunately have not heard about any updates, but I think it is all coming together in the editing stages. So
Wow.
not sure when it's going to be released. I don't know if we have a projected date for that, but yes, it is all filmed, and everything is just being laced together now.
Right on. So follow the band on Instagram to keep up to date with that, and they'll be posting about that.
Yeah,
And Alec, you're the man. Thank you. Thank you everybody who listened, and see you next year. Alec, I'm gonna stop recording this. I'll talk to you in a minute.
right on, bro. Later.